Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Life in Sport podcast, and we are on that netball grind again. Obviously, if you haven't already, pause this episode right now and go and listen to our interview episode with Liam Killy, because this episode is with another Australian Kelpie representative. His name is Josh Byron. First of all, thank you for joining me. And how's your day gone so far?
No, thanks very much for having us. It's it's always good to be able to have an opportunity to get the Kelpies brand out there. So yeah, thanks for taking the time. And yeah, sunny day in Melbourne today, so no complaints.
That's good to hear. And obviously, I start the interview with every guest, no matter what sport they are currently in or previously in, with the same question, and it's what is your earliest sporting memory?
Ooh. Probably like under six soccer would probably be my earliest memory. And not so much actually playing soccer. It was more when I was going to my first training session. I didn't really know what my team was or anything,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
um, I remember getting out of the car and I was like, "Where am I going?" And my dad was like, "Look for Guy." I was like, "What guy?" He's
yeah.
like, he's like, Guy, his name's Guy. I was like, yeah, I know he's a guy, but what's his name? And so like that was
Ah,
just always, on repeat in my brain from early soccer memories.
okay. And how long did you play soccer for from that age onwards?
Pretty much played until adulthood. So basically, yeah, played until I finished school. Did a few years in kind of state league, and kind of in the Prem rep division up in New South Wales
As
during my
in
time growing
NPL
up.
sort of thing?
Yeah, yeah. What is now the NPL? Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Wow,
so I did
that's
that for
awesome.
under 16s and under 18s.
And to anyone that doesn't know, the NPL is a pretty big bloody deal, especially up here in New South Wales. The NPL is, for lack of a better term, reserve grade to the A League, more or less. So that's that, and obviously it does go in age groups as well, but that's still, you know, incredible. And it's crazy to think that you're also did track and field growing up as well. And how far and how did you go with track and field? And what were your, you could say, pet events or specialty events in track and field?
Yeah, yeah. I would say that track and field was probably my preferred sport growing up. It was
Okay.
definitely the one that I was more successful at. Yeah,
More successful, and you're saying your NPL under 17s, under 20s. Wow,
yeah. I
talk
was
us through
it
talk
was
us
only
through the athletics.
yeah, it was only a short stint of time at that level in soccer, but yeah, no, athletics was definitely the one I had the most consistency in. So started athletics, under sevens, in little A's, growing up, and ran for the club that my dad ran for. So that was really good, and had a lot of early success in my junior days as like a multi-event athlete. But then as I kind of got towards, kind of my teens, started doing a lot of hurdles. So in
Okay.
in like junior athletics in school, did a lot of just 80, 90, 100 meter hurdles as the age groups progressed. Had also some good success as like a 400 runner as well. So as I kind of got older, I was doing a lot of 200, then got too slow to be a 200 runner. So they went to 400, and then, they started
Yeah.
getting a
Okay.
bit too quick. They started getting a bit quick as well. And so I went, okay, well, let's throw some hurdles in the way. So I ended up, yeah, my eventual specialty was 400 hurdles. I was fortunate enough to represent Australia as an underage athlete at the Oceania Champs in 2014.
Oh
That
wow.
was, yeah, competing in the under 20s division there. So yeah, that was probably a highlight of my athletics career. Some really fond memories from that, and a lot of lifelong friends from those times as well. And yeah, I think athletics is a great sport, no matter to do no matter what sport you want to specialize in. It's so great for just that fundamental athleticism and learning how to run properly and all of those basic stuff that you learn as a kid. That's really helpful across across any sport and super applicable.
Oh, absolutely. Um, and before we get stuck into the netball chat, because people, anyone that's listening, don't worry, we are going to get into the nitty gritty of his netball journey. There's one more sport that you also played, and that's Aussie rules or AFL. To anyone who doesn't know, it's called Aussie rules as well. Um, at what point did you switch and focus on pursuing an AFL Category B selection?
Yeah, so I was working in the AFL, so I worked at the Giants for a few years, and a friend of mine who went for the athletics pathway as well, Jake Stein, he got picked up as a Category B athlete through the Giants, went on to play for the Gold Coast Suns as well. And so yeah, like as that was kind of happening, I was really kind of getting into the game. At that point, I hadn't grown up playing the game, hadn't grown up
Okay.
really supporting the game. It was only once I kind of started working in the space that I got to
Did you
know
grow
the
up in
game and
Victoria,
learn the
if you don't
game.
mind me asking?
No, grew up in New South Wales.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So really didn't have much exposure to it. Never played it as a kid, but yeah, really, really started to enjoy it, and then just yeah, started, just slowly introducing myself to it, kicking the ball around at work and stuff. And then, and just really started to enjoy it and felt that I was picking it up quite quickly and had a few conversations with a few different people that went, oh, there's these types of options available. So at that point I was 21. And so it was, a good kind of age bracket for it. And
Absolutely.
I was always the type of person just went, why not? Like, give it a go. I was enjoying the sport. It was another opportunity. And yeah, and so that's kind of what it ended up bringing me to Melbourne. So that was, yeah, that was an exciting time, and I really enjoyed that time. Did a couple of campaigns with the Essendon VFL system,
Hmm.
which was awesome. But yeah, found myself back to athletics. I think fundamentally I was just sorry, back to netball. I was just a better netballer than I was a footy player. But very much enjoyed the time in the space.
No, that's fair enough. That's a really interesting journey as well, because not a lot of people actually do know that there's, other avenues into the AFL that's not just the draft system sort of thing. So that's really interesting to hear that side of things. Now, next question, the last question related to other sport is which AFL side do you support now that you understand the sport, you've played it, etc.?
Yeah, well, I mean, just on work affiliation, I'm very much a Giants fan. Have a really good relationship with the people from my time at the Giants and a number of people that are still there. And so yeah, definitely that's the team to support.
Fair enough. Well, you might hate me, but I'm a Collingwood fan. So
I do.
apologies,
No.
apologies, but it could be worse. I always say it could be worse. I could follow Carlton because Carlton.
Oh, I got a couple of lifelong Carlton fans in my family, so
Okay, fair.
I can't I'll have to disagree with you on that one.
Okay, fair enough. Rightio. So now let's get stuck into netball talk. And the first question is, what drew you to netball?
Yeah, I guess growing up again, similar to footy, didn't have any exposure to netball growing up. Don't have sisters, don't have family that played. And where in Victoria there's a really strong kind of footy netball league connection, and you get a lot
Yeah,
of
there is.
exposure to it growing up.
It's
Whether it be
90%. It's like one of my mates lives in Pimpernio. It's Pimpernio Football Netball Club sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the consistency pretty much across the state and country footy, metro footy as well. And so yeah, so there was definitely not that exposure as a kid. Didn't really know much about it. Wasn't, was doing enough to keep me busy at that point.
Yep.
But yeah, and then so kind of got into it through just a family friend. And yeah, I guess like kind of what really drew me to it was just that ability for kind of everyone to contribute. You're not relying on one player. You can't be relying on one player to win a game. I find that makes it kind of the purest team sport that there is, because you
Yep.
not only can you not do everything, you're physically like not allowed to based on the rules as
Yeah,
well. So like,
exactly.
even if you want to, you can't. And so yeah, I think that's really
You
what
can't
drew me to
dribble the
it.
ball down the court and do a, slam dunk sort of thing.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So I think that's kind of what drew me to it, and then yeah, what kept me there was just obviously all the relationships I kind of built along the way, and how how much happiness and joy the space really brings me.
That's incredible. And when and how was your first experience of actually playing the game of netball?
Yes, my first experience with netball was was through that family friend, and I actually didn't play at this time, but I went away. I kind of just got dragged along for a long weekend
Yep.
competition. That was just this, really, quite big social competition down in Albury. But a lot of kind of state indoor reps and stuff like that were playing, and that was where my first exposure to like guys being involved was a really really strong high quality mixed comp in that competition. And yeah, and so I just kind of watched that, and it was like, oh cool, I didn't even know this was a thing, and
Yep.
kind
I
of really
didn't know this
enjoyed
was a
it.
thing for men, sort of thing,
Yeah,
to
yeah,
be
yeah,
able to
exactly
progress
right.
in, sort of thing.
Not even that, like just this was really was like a social competition. Like it was definitely not a wow, there's a pathway kind of light
Yep.
bulb moment for me. It was a, oh, I didn't know that like the indoor game existed. I didn't know that mixed existed. Like I really had such a little education about it, and so yeah, I was like, oh, that's cool. And I didn't really think anything other than this looks fun. This is pretty cool. And so like in the breaks between games and quarters, I just go out and just like shoot hoops and stuff. And then yeah, I kind of was pretty interested. And then a few weeks after that, that family friend got me involved. She was involved at in indoor and state outdoor at that point, and yeah, went along. And at that point, the pathways were, that's what 13, 14 years ago now. So like the pathways were significantly less sophisticated at that point than they are now. And so I guess the barrier to entering was a lot lower. And so yeah, kind of stumbled into a state program at that point in the under 17s as a 14-year old. Um and yeah, the rest is kind of history.
Absolutely. And obviously, there's many different positions in netball as there are with team sports. And obviously, if I'm not mistaken, you're a goal defender, goalkeeper. If first of all, if that's correct, have you played any other positions, during your journey, and what sort of made you gravitate to being more so a goal defender, goalkeeper?
Yeah, it's a really good question and quite an interesting kind of topic in the men's space especially. So yeah, I started off as a mid quarter. I was
Okay.
I was pretty small and but I was quick, and so that was kind of where I started, and it was a good way just to kind of refine that craft, and be able to kind of use that just pure athleticism while I was really learning the game and the strategy
Raw,
and the moves and
unmatched
stuff.
talent. Yeah.
Yeah, not so much that, but just using the best that I had at the time.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, and then so then after a few years, I grew a bit and then became a goaler. So I was kind of a goal attack at that point.
Okay. Yep.
And yeah, and then play goal attack all through my junior days. So all through under 17s, 20s, 23s at state and national level, and then made my first opens division for nationals as a goaler as well. And it wasn't until my second year in opens, which was 2017. So I was 19, 20, yeah, 19 or 20 at that point,
Hmm.
that I kind of moved into defense. And the
Was
move
that of your own
came.
volition? Yeah, I was going to say, where'd that come from?
Yeah, it was I mean, it was a little bit of both. Like I'd done a little bit of pinch hitting there when needed, but it was
Yep.
never kind of anything I kind of trained for, or took overly seriously at that point because I was really
Hmm.
focused on being a goaler. But yeah, only a few weeks before that national title, the Kelpies goalkeeper at that time was in our stateside, and he got injured only a few weeks before and couldn't come to nationals, and we had in the other teams, there was a 7'2" goal shooter, a 6'9" goal
Oh,
shooter. Like we had just these big units to kind of play on, and we didn't have a lot of height in our defense. And
yep.
once he went out, so
And
yeah, it
how
was
tall are
kind of
you
a
for reference for people listening?
6'4".
Okay, yep.
So it was a bit of a it was a bit of a Hail Mary, just being I was young, I could jump, and I had a bit of height, and so
Yep.
um and I'd
Which
done a little
even
bit
though you're
there.
going up against 7'1" and 6'9", at 6'4", with the ability to jump and the athleticism to do that, it definitely helps negate needing those extra inches in height, sort of thing.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're still you're still kind of out of your depth a little bit, and so
Yeah.
you got to be a
Okay.
bit creative. You still got to be a bit creative with how you try and kind of manufacture ball. But yeah, it definitely helps if you're 6'4" playing on 7'2" versus 5'11" playing on 7'2", right?
Yeah.
Like
Of course. Yeah.
you kind of take what you can get. But yeah, so that's kind of how I found my way into the defense end, and yeah, I found some early success in that space, and really enjoyed the position, built some really good combinations. And yeah, and then the following year in 2018 was when kind of I made my Kelpies debut, and
What
that
was
was
that
as a
like getting
defense.
that call up for the Kelpies?
Yeah, it was really special. Like, and I think of the cohort that debuted that year, myself, Al Punchin, Brody Roberts, Jerome Gilbard, Dill McPherson, Eugene Lee, like we'd all kind of come through the junior pathway Aussie teams together as well
Hmm.
in kind of numerous years from 2013 through to that point. So it was really special to be able to kind of debut alongside players that had come through the pathway. There'd been a number of retirements over the previous few years, so it really was a bit of a changing of the guard, and a lot of youth came into the team that year. So yeah, that was really special. And I mean, like anything, it's something that you never forget, and it was very much a dream come true, and something I'd aspired to and wanted to achieve from when I started playing. So yeah, it was amazing.
That's awesome to hear. And your most recent representation of the Kelpies was at the Constellation Cup this year, where Australia played 4 games against New Zealand. And just before I ask a question about that, anyone that's listening, the stats are 4 games, absolute whitewash to Australia against New Zealand. Game 1 was 84-34. Game 2, 75-30. Game three, 78 to 36, and game four, 71 to 39. First of all, obviously, as the, you could say, primary choice of goal defender, goalkeeper, congratulations and massive effort on keeping those New Zealand team to such little scores. And secondly, my question around that is, how was that competition this year for you?
Yeah, I think to your first point, like defensively, again, it comes back to my point earlier. Like, it isn't one person's job, and I think one thing that we really focused on as a whole team was defense all through court. So,
Okay.
those scores are definitely not the byproduct of two people in the circle. That's an effort of seven
It's the goal
people.
is getting the rebounds sort of thing, etc.
It's when we turn the ball over, being able to regain ball in our attacking third, in our center third, before it
Yep.
even gets to the defensive third, right? Like there was so
Gotcha.
much, we gained so much ball in all areas of the court. So it was definitely a full team effort in that regard. And, as I said, you can't keep teams to low scores with, just if you let them get to the circle and then
Of
and it's
course.
up to two people. So yeah, it was an incredible effort and something that we were really happy with because that was a big focus for us. And I guess, yeah, like as an overall campaign, like we've done a lot of work over a number of years to professionalize our environment and kind of mimic the high performance spaces of a number of other sports, including the women's space in netball and other sports as well, and trying to find, what things that we can bring into our space that are going to allow us to grow. This year's theme for us was elevate and around elevating all aspects of our performance. We started our programming in the start of June, so it was a good 20-week program from the start of that all the way through to the end of the tour. So a lot of work went into that. It was 3 gym sessions, a couple of court sessions, extra conditioning sessions each week on top of our full-time jobs and things like that. So it was fantastic to get the reward for that effort and across the whole squad. And it's exciting that the age profile of our team and the broader squad that that the team is selected from is quite good, and it means that there's going to be a lot of opportunity to continue to build on that for many years to come with a fairly consistent kind of broader squad of that kind of 20 or 25 athletes that our coaches have the headache of having to fit into a 12-person team. And
Yep.
yeah, it's really exciting for our
But that's a
sport
good
and,
headache to
and for
have.
what's going to come. Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing, like having that depth is a testament to all the work that gets done across all of the states. And yeah, it's a really exciting time, and we're just really happy that we're able to get those results and kind of live up to what we expected of ourselves as well. But like anything, like we're going to go into next year knowing that there's other things we want to work on and continue to build.
Absolutely. And Fast Fives, obviously the Fast Fives championships just finished up in the last week and a bit. You did not nominate to represent Australia in this competition. But before we get into the whys and all that sort of stuff regarding that, first of all, what is the Fast Fives? Its format, its differences compared to regular netball for anyone that's listening that may not know about the Fast Fives.
Yeah, so Fast Five in netball is kind of, netball's answer to, what T20 cricket is or rugby sevens is. It's kind of just an alternate format of the game that's really designed to bring a different demographic and into the supporter base and kind of be a really strong, exciting,
More
fast-paced
digestible sort of
introduction.
thing.
Yeah, in a way, it's because you've got less players. It's you think about this equivalent like with rugby sevens, right? Like you
Yeah.
have less players, there's less stoppage, there's more movement, it's more free flowing, and so I think that's really exciting if you're learning a game and if
Yeah.
you're exposed to the game for the first time. But yeah, on top of I guess the structure of the game, it's very much like sportainment, right? Everyone dresses up in the crowd. It's a big event, that's really exciting and really meant to be a bit of a show. And yeah, so the difference is you lose your wing attack and your wing defense. It's you've got additional shooting ranges that you can shoot outside the ring for 3 points. There's a 2 point line, and then there's a period of the game where those points are doubled and things like that. So it makes it quite an exciting format, and big leads can be chewed up very quickly, and
Yeah.
it's a very unpredictable game, and the strategies are quite significantly different in all areas of the court. So yeah, it's a very different game to the traditional seven aside, but yeah, it's been fantastic to have the men's involved over the last 3 years in that space.
Absolutely. And obviously, elephant in the room was you didn't nominate to play for or at least represent. What was the decision behind that? Was it injury or was it just you wanted to break after the Continental Cup sort of thing? Sorry, Constellation Cup.
Look, if I'm being completely candid, I'm not actually very good at the format, if I'm
Fair
completely
enough.
honest.
Yep.
Yeah, Fast Five is definitely not my strong suit. But I mean, in addition to that, obviously, it's we work full time. It's annual leave
Yep.
for us. Work commitments make it really challenging for a number of the boys, including myself. And there was 2 work days between the end of Constellation Cup's tour and the start of the Fast Five tour. So it's effectively 4 weeks straight out of work, which
Yeah.
is, if you can manage it, fantastic. But for me, it was just not something I could do within my business, and that just meant that, yeah, unfortunately, even if I did have the skills to add some
Yep.
value in that team, it would have just been a bit yeah, it would have been just a bit challenging for me personally. But you know, they were an amazing group. I think the right 10 were picked. It's a great opportunity to bring pathway athletes through. We had a number of athletes from our under 20s, under 23s sides that were given opportunities that all went out there and performed brilliantly. And, having that mix of pathway athletes and established Kelpies athletes means that, talking about that depth that we have as a broader squad, it gives great opportunity for those athletes to see what it's like on the international stage and playing stadiums and give them those exposures so that as those pathway athletes move into the Kelpie space, it's a much smoother transition into that environment, which is awesome. So yeah, they all held their own brilliantly, and the right 10 were picked. And I dare say that if I was there, it would not have been a stronger team.
Fair enough. And that's very self-aware of you as well, which is very wonderful to hear. Um, and obviously, again, another elephant in the room is the bye pre-game. Now, obviously, I want to stress this to everyone that's listening. This episode is not about getting you on to talk about the bye. Um, However, I would be remiss if I did not at least mention it or ask about it, but from a different point of view, because you weren't part of the team in the sense of that went over to New Zealand and did the dance. So as an onlooker, or not an outsider, because you are teammates with all of these guys as well in general. What was it like, first of all, seeing it, and how did you feel as a teammate watching all of them? Absolutely, in my opinion, nailing it, and seeing a good 97% positive response to it.
Yeah, I think as you put, I thought they absolutely nailed it. It was awesome. Like I really enjoyed it. I was swinging the towels in the lounge room, like hyping them up as well. But yeah, I mean, like I think we've really addressed the negative commentary already a fair amount. But the overwhelming majority of the feedback has been really positive, and we're thrilled to be able to grow our supporter base substantially across the international season from both the Constellation Cup as well as the Fast Five tournament. It shows both like the team's dance moves as well as the netball we put out on court is resonating with
Yes.
fans and of netball, that we've got an exciting brand that people want to watch. That gives us a lot of confidence around the marketability of our game and the growth prospects for our future. For now, it's about soaking up all the incredible support we've received from both tours and reflecting on what's been our most successful international tour that we've had. To win the Constellation Cup, the Trans Tasman Cup 4-0, and then to come out away with our first Fast Five title. It says a lot about our program and coming back to how we've built that professionalism. And when we hadn't won that before, and we did this year on the back of the Constellation Cup, Trans Tasman Cup. I think elevating was something that we succeeded in as our desire for the year.
Oh, absolutely. And off the back of that, what do you think needs to happen or change in order for the profile of men's netball in Australia and also to an extent internationally to progress to whatever the next step may be?
Yeah, look, I mean, we've seen it in the women's formats of many sports that the reality is time takes time. Like nothing happens overnight.
Of
We have
course.
full confidence in how the Australian Men's Mixed Netball Executive and Netball Australia are working together to strengthen the partnership and opportunities for boys and men at all levels. If we look back to, when I first debuted, we played behind closed doors in front of a handful of family and friends, and maybe had a Facebook live stream. We're now a high performance space that sees televised test matches that are globally broadcast and participating in world netball events like Fast Five. It's been an enormous amount of progress in a relatively short amount of time. And, it's just a privilege to be able to play a small role in this era of the game and to hopefully forge that path and build momentum to continue growing the footprint and interest and the professionalism of the environment.
Absolutely. And tangenting back to an extent where you were talking about how the turnaround, other than obviously the fact that you believe that you're no good when it comes to the fast fives. There was only a 2 day worth of work between the 2 weeks away for the Constellation Cup, and then 2 days of work, and then having to go to New Zealand. What's the other realities for the men's game currently, at least in Australia?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think as you put there, I think work's obviously one main one. Like we all work full-time jobs, we all have those commitments, in our week, and so we have to find some flexibility to make sure that things can work. And for our state programs and our national programs, where we're training before work, we're training after work, we're training on weekends. We're using our annual leave to compete at national titles and compete at these international competitions, and obviously as well, like there's a financial component to that and paying our way
Mm,
to have the opportunities. And I think what that says is that you could never question anyone's love for the game, like that we're
mm.
making those types of sacrifices to be there when there's always other things you could be doing and always other things that money and annual leave can be used for. And we've all got to have extremely supportive, partners and families that give us the leeway to do what we love and make sacrifices. And the reality is that they're compromised for us to be able to follow our dreams and live out these opportunities. So they're just some of the realities of the game at the moment. And as I said, it's come a long way in a short amount of time, and it makes it all worth it knowing that these opportunities can hopefully continue to progress over time. And yeah, who knows what the future can hold in whatever time frame that looks like.
No, that's fair. Like as you said, it's already come so far since you started as a teenager compared to now. So, who's to say how far it'll go in that same amount of time in the future? We could be looking at in hypothetically 10, 15 years time, at a Commonwealth Games men's team potentially. You never know what the future holds, but as you said, it doesn't happen overnight. Um, but definitely watch this space though. Keep an eye on this space. Anyone that's listening to on, the men's the AMMNA, but also the Kelpies as well. Now, onto some fun questions. First of all, who's the funniest teammate?
Ooh, I think a few people would put themselves forward for that award if you ask them. But
Yep.
I'm gonna say Dre is the most entertaining teammate.
Okay. That's a very
Is
interesting answer. Liam
well,
Killy did
I
also
think
say
it's
Dre.
yeah, I think it's it broadens the remit. He's a lot of fun, but he also is he becomes the victim of the joke a fair bit as well. But
Okay.
self-inflicted, but he's a good sport, and he's a lot of fun and good to have in a team environment. But that instigation allows other people to kind of buy into it. It becomes such a fun team environment.
Gotcha. That's awesome. You always need someone like that in the team. And that kind of
Exactly.
piggybacks into the next question, which it could be the same person. Who's the team pest?
I think there's two, but when you put them together, it's
Uh,
compounds well beyond 2x. So
Yep.
yeah, like I think Liam was right when he is one. But Al Punchin is also a huge pest, and that's not just on tour. I think he's
Okay.
a massive pest. But then those two together is a nightmare.
Okay, fair. So, Liam, if you are listening to this episode, I'll still be telling you via Instagram message anyway that so far one of the future guests has definitely confirmed that you are one of the team pests. But also, congratulations, Liam, on being self-aware enough to nominate yourself for that in the last episode. Now, we've got fast five questions. It just purely coincides with this fast fives, but I've always done five quick fire questions. Just to get to know the person more than just about their journey. So my first question is Apple or Android?
Apple.
Absolutely. Favorite movie of all time?
Ooh, Well, I'll preface by saying I'm more of a TV series type of person.
Hmm.
But my favorite movie, I'd say probably Interstellar, and Suits would be my
Okay.
favorite TV series.
I was going to say, what's your favorite TV series? That's a good series to choose. How do you like your steak? Or if you don't like steak, what's your favorite meal?
No, I love steak, rare.
Rare, okay. I love medium rare, but as long as it's not, a manhole cover being well done, then that's okay. Um, what's your drink or beverage of choice if you don't drink?
Coffee.
Yeah, okay. How do you like your coffee then? What's your coffee order?
Strong flat white.
Yeah, fair.
Nice and
And what's
easy.
your biggest pet peeve?
My biggest pet peeve, I'm going to say, and I'm going to preface this by the intention of this is right,
Hmm.
but it annoys me. And it annoys me when pedestrians like wave you through if they've got the right of way or vice versa. I think it's really,
Gotcha. Now, when you've
yeah.
clearly stopped for them, sort of
Yeah,
thing, and they're like, no,
yeah.
no,
Or,
you go. And you're like, I just stopped for you, sort of thing.
yeah, it's like a zebra crossing. They're like, go
Yeah,
on, or vice versa. If you're like about to cross the road as a pedestrian and then a car stops and waves you through and it's there right away, it's confusing. I just think if you just follow the rules, it's makes it a bit easier. But again, I
fair
think
enough.
that's kind of clutching at straws. It's not the
It's
worst
not.
problem in the world.
It's not, but it's definitely a pet peeve.
Yeah, the
And you know
intentions are
what?
right, as I said. The intentions
Yeah,
are good.
yeah, oh, absolutely. So you could say it's a positive pet peeve. But also Liam actually brought up, did he in the sporting world or in general life. So I'm going to ask, what is your sporting pet peeve or your netball pet peeve? You could say as well.
That's a good one. Netball pet peeve.
Liam's was when people leave like their strapping tape or whatever on the side of the bench. It's like it's not that hard to put in the bin. Would it be something similar to that?
Yeah, well, I don't really like taping, so I think having to tape is my netball pet peeve.
Okay, fair. You know what? That's fair enough. And my final question for you is, what's next for Josh Byron?
Oh well, like there's no rest. I think Vic training kicks off shortly, so yeah, really quick turnaround. We get a little bit of an extension of a break post tour just to kind of rest and recharge and stuff. But yeah, so that starts up this weekend. I think the Kelpies athletes will kind of come back in with over the next few weeks. So yeah, straight back into the state space now. My goal is just to keep getting incrementally better and bringing new elements to my game to make sure that I can contribute as much as I can to the team. So I'm excited to to work with Al again at a state level after a Kelpies after another Kelpies tour together and be able to bring that back with our broader defensive unit at Vic and so we can keep building and hopefully go back and win another national title.
Oh, that'd be great. Um, I want to wish you the best of luck, first of all, with that. And want to thank you very much for your time and for coming on the podcast. And I'd love to get you on at this time next year once another full season of, Kelpies and Fast Fives and whatnot has been and gone. And we can, talk about, a year on sort of thing if you'd be interested.
Yeah, sounds fantastic. Absolutely. Thanks so much for bringing me on and for bringing the other boys on as well.
Absolutely. My pleasure.